everyone, it's Sherry from the blog ourlifehomeschooling.com. I'm going to be talking today about some mistakes that I made as a homeschooler after 10 plus years of homeschooling. Last year was our 12th year of homeschooling, and with a little bit under our belt, I feel like I can look back and just review some things that I definitely changed after we had been going for a while, and I'm going to share them with you. When I first started homeschooling, I knew almost no one in my circle that was homeschooling. I ran into about 2 or 3 friends who were kind of at the same level I was. We were all just kind of thinking about it as a possibility, not definitely decided. And those were the friends that I really got closer to, and we started meeting in each other's homes, and that eventually became a co-op. I did know a couple people that were ahead of me, and these people were a lifeline for me, and I wanted to glean everything that I could from them just to know how to do this brand new thing that was something that was completely foreign to me. So I hope that by sharing some of my mistakes after 12 years of homeschooling, this can be that same kind of lifeline to someone else who is starting out for the first time, just looking for, how does this work? And what should I do? What should I not do? What's really important? What should I prioritize? What should I focus on? The very first mistake that I made was doubting myself. I think this is normal for most homeschool moms. The truth is that God gave these children to us. By the time they are ready for school, we have already taught them so many things. They've learned from us how to talk, how to walk. We've potty trained them. And learning school subjects is really just one more thing, just the next step up. I think when moms doubt themselves, it's because they're comparing themselves to what kids are doing in school. And homeschooling just looks very different. In some ways, you're doing way more than what they're doing in school. And in some ways, or on some days, it's not as much or at the same pace. But it evens out. And I think what's important to remember is that God gave these children to you. There is no one who loves them any more than you and your husband. And you are the one that is going to fight for them more than anyone else to find the resources they need, to outsource, some help if you need it. You're going to find what they need to be successful. And so because of that, you are well suited to be their teacher, to homeschool them. Another mistake I made was worrying about what my kids are missing out on. If I would just drive by the local school and see something or hear something, sometimes I would think, oh, did we do that? Did we study that? And again, homeschooling just looks so different that it's not fair to compare the two. And I found that anything that they are missing out on from school, there are things that are not the same. So there are things they are going to miss. But anything they're missing out on is replaced by something that they wouldn't be able to do if they were in school. For example, countless times we've gone out for breakfast in the morning. We can set our own pace. We eat all 3 meals a day at home. We're together a lot. We can go out really anywhere we want. The world is our classroom. This is just a few of the things that come to my mind. So there are things that they are missing out on from not being in school, but those things are replaced by things that they wouldn't be able to do if they were in school. So it really just looks differently, and it really comes down to your perspective on it. A third mistake I made, and I want to be careful how I say this one, is prioritizing academics ahead of relationships. Now, when I say that, I don't mean to say that my relationships with my kids weren't important or that I didn't make them a priority. Quite the opposite. My relationships with them were very important. We spent a lot of time together. We had a lot of fun. I loved homeschooling them. I loved learning beside them, and some of my early years with my kids are just very precious treasured memories. What I mean by saying that I prioritized academics above relationships sometimes was that I felt like we had to do every book. We had to read every book. We had to do every problem. And we had to do all of it. And I think maybe because I was intimidated by being a new homeschooler and not knowing what to expect, I overcompensated, and I didn't need to. I could have relaxed quite a bit more. I think they would have learned more and we would have had more fun. You know, if you are just going to read every single book and do every single problem, and you see your child staring off into space and they're just sitting there until it's done, are they really learning anything? I don't think so. They probably learned it in the first 15 minutes of the lesson, and if not, then you'll get to it tomorrow. So, as time has gone by, I have tried to keep lessons short, and especially as my older kids are getting into middle school and high school, we're going to have a graduate next year. This has really shifted for me, and there was a point when I realized with our oldest son that the time we had left with him was shorter than the time we had with him. And in my heart, that just kind of internally changed everything for me. And from that point on, having fun together and relaxing, family vacations, just sitting at night watching our favorite show together and talking, those things suddenly took much higher of a priority. And I eased up a bit on some of our academic work, knowing that they would be fine. And a love of learning is really the most important thing and is what is going to make them excel. So doing every problem, finishing every book is not really as important as I thought it was in the beginning. Another mistake I've made is to worry about how the kids are going to turn out. Whenever any of my kids would struggle with something, my first thought would be, maybe it's because they're homeschooled. Maybe it's me. You know, it must be something that I'm lacking or something that I'm doing wrong. And the truth is, all of our kids are going to struggle with different things. Kids in school struggle. It doesn't necessarily have to do with you or with what you're doing. I remember a quote from Cindy Rollins, who is kind of the author of Morning Time, of the idea of morning time. She said one time that she felt like if she could send her kids on the school bus, that was the one place that they could go where she would feel like everything that went wrong wasn't her fault. And I think there is a tendency for homeschool moms to worry when their kids struggle with things. And it's important to remember that kids are going to struggle with different things, and sometimes we can't fix it, and that's really hard when they have problems that we can't fix. And our job is just to be good listeners, to look for ways to help them. We love them more than anyone else. And they just need loving, caring parents, and it's not necessarily something that we as homeschool moms are doing. A fifth mistake, and this is one that I think all homeschool moms would probably confess to doing, is comparing myself to what other homeschoolers are doing. There are always going to be things that I am not as good at. I am not a unit study person. I'm not a project person. I like simple, I like reading. I don't like getting a lot of things out because it just makes more mess. So, you know, when I see a mom that does all these awesome projects and there's so many things that they can show for it, it just looks awesome and it's easy to compare yourself. But that's just not me, and it doesn't work for me. And maybe my kids love it and maybe they will grow up and be more project people. But it doesn't work for me. And just learning to accept who you are and who your kids are and what works best for your family, and just staying in your own lane is what's going to keep you moving forward. And the last mistake is underestimating the value of life skills. When I started homeschooling, for me, there was school, and then there was cleaning and housework and cooking and doing all the things that were needful for the family. And the more and more I homeschool, the more those two things are just becoming fluid. I value the skills of learning to do your own laundry, of keeping a room clean, Now, don't get me wrong, the kids always had chores from the time they were very little. We always did chores and we tried to keep things cleaned up. But the more our family grew, and with always being at home all the time, there was just a need for things to be picked up even more than normal because we were all there. And of course, 3 meals a day is a lot to cook. Because we have a shorter day than kids in school, they really get a lot of their academic work done quickly, and there's just time during the day for them to stop, throw in their laundry, for someone to make lunch. My kids are always asking if they can make things. So, why should I discourage that if, they really want to do it? It's a great skill for them to learn, and they're still able to get their regular academic work done. So the more I homeschool, the more I value incorporating, making these two things intermingle, life skills and the academic side of school. So I hope this is helpful to some mom who maybe is just starting out or just has a couple of years under your belt. I know I've always loved hearing from moms that are ahead of me, how they do it, what mistakes they made, they would go back and do again if they had the opportunity to. So these are just some mistakes I've made, things that I've changed over the years. In the next video and the next week, I'm going to be sharing what works after 10 plus years of homeschooling, what I'm still doing, what was the best that I have decided to keep through all these years. Thanks for stopping by. Have a great week.